Hi, this is Simon at the Best of Market Harborough, complete with new post-lockdown haircut. Over the coming weeks, I'd like to introduce you to a series of short videos, all entitled 5 Top DIY Tips. Now, these are going to be offered by some of the Best of Market Harborough business members, and they're going to range anything from gardening tips to house maintenance DIY tips, to maybe some cookery tips, and to kick us off, they're going to be car maintenance tips. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a bit of a numpty when it comes to car maintenance. And so I went along to see Mr. Graham Packer, who's the owner of Hubbard Motors in Farndon Road. And I asked Graham if he could offer us 5 essential car maintenance tips under the bonnet that we should all be doing to maintain our cars and keep them safe in between servicing. And this is what he had to say.
Most important ones are oil and water. You need those basically to keep the engine cool and lubricated. Now, most vehicles will have an identifying, usually yellow or some sort of identifying area to tell you things that you can touch. So things that are highlighted boldly normally mean that you can touch them. But again, knowing your vehicle first, before you touch anything under the bonnet, before you even open your bonnet, is something you need to do first. Understand your vehicle, look at your manual, find out where your dipstick is, find out where your screen washer is, your brake fluid levels, before you even go near the vehicle. Don't start touching the vehicle until you know what you've faced with. If that's a problem, you can always nip into your local garage and they'll point these things out for you if it's not in your manual or you're finding it difficult to do. Dipsticks are usually quite obvious to spot. It is literally what it says it is. It is a stick, you know. Always wipe it clean. Putting your car in the right place to start with is always the first place to start. Your car needs to be on level ground. It needs to be always in the same place. You want to check it in a consistent place. So it always wants to be on level ground, usually cold. You don't want to be doing the thing when it's red hot because that can be dangerous. Things can burn you. So you don't want to be doing it when it's hot. You want to be doing things. Exactly. You want a level playing field so that all your levels are nice and stable. So your dipstick, if your vehicle is fitted with a dipstick, more modern vehicles don't have a dipstick. It's done through the dashboard. Again, your manual will tell you exactly how to do it. But a dipstick, you know, the majority of vehicles still have an old-fashioned dipstick. A dipstick is exactly what it says. It has a minimum and a maximum mark on it. So you have a lower mark and an upper mark. They'll all be slightly different. Your manual will tell you exactly how to read it. You want to be just below or actually smack on the full mark when it's cold. So you clean the dipstick, so you get all your oil off the dipstick. Feed it back into the tube that it came from. Make sure it's firmly home. Remove it back from the vehicle and inspect. So, can you see that? The oil is a lovely opaque biscuit colour. Right. If this is jet black on a petrol, this is a petrol engine. If that oil was jet black, it's contaminated. It's not good for your engine. Diesels are different because the amount of soot they produce, it makes the oil go black anyway. So in this instance, a petrol, we can see it's just about 3 or 4 millimeters below the maximum. It's a lovely biscuit colour and opaque, perfect, exactly where it needs to be. So that's the first one we can tick off the list.
And just before we move on from else, how do you know what kind of oil to put in there?
Again, your manual will tell you. But if you go now with modern day computers, you go to a parts retailer, you know, whether when it's one of the major ones or when it's one of the independents, by giving your registration number to them, they will put that into their system and it will tell them the right oil to give to you. So your manual will tell you, but nowadays most people don't need to. Where you buy, when you go to purchase the oil, it can be brought from your registration straight from there, so that's not a problem. It's if it needed filling, and it's done through, again, it will actually, usually 99% of the time, it's written on the cap, engine oil. So it's normally pretty straightforward that's where your oil goes. I recommend that you only put in ½ litre at a time. If you find that it is low, put in small quantities at a time, no more than ½ litre. It's easier to put it in than it is to take it out. So you never want to overfill a vehicle. So ½ litre at a time. Give it a couple of seconds to drain down, about 30 seconds to a minute. Recheck it. If you're not sure, recheck it again. If it's still a little bit down, put another little 1/4 of a litre in until you get, always underfill it just slightly, because it'll always rise a little bit as it drains down. Right. Next one on the list, that's really the next one down of importance really, is engine coolant. Now on this vehicle, on this Peugeot, we've got 2 caps. One is just a filling cap. This one would be always brim full. So it's not one you normally have to check, but you can check it. As long as the engine's cold, you can check that. As you can see, it's completely filled to the brim. Yeah, so it has, if it's got 2 caps, this one would normally be full. Again, manual will tell you for certain. This is the overflow, so that one stays full all the while, and it pushes water, the coolant out, or sucks it back in, depending on as it needs to keep that top to up to the top. Right. This is the one that we would then fill with a coolant, preferably. If you've got nothing else, water will do. You can always add some antifreeze at a later date. If it's down on water, it's always best to have something in it than nothing. Right. So water will be fine, but needs to be checked for antifreeze strength at a later date.
How often would you recommend sort of checking water levels or coolant levels?
All of these checks really would be recommended once a month. Yeah, depending on how much you're using it, but it's usually a good idea, considering how short amount of time it takes. Once you get used to doing it, it's surprising you can do all these checks in 10 minutes. So really, 10 minutes once a month to look after your vehicle isn't really that much to ask. Yeah. Antifreeze usually should be changed every couple of years, but that would be done on your servicing. Yeah. Next one, we've got, this one's actually, most of these again, got a little picture of a windscreen with a jet. That's your screen wash. So actually quite important, because you do need to see where you're going. Yeah. So this would have a mixture of screen wash and water. Screen wash goes in first, then top it up to full with water. Most important in the winter as well, to make sure it's got a good level of screen wash in it, because it helps stop the bottle from freezing, stop the water in the bottle from freezing.
That's one thing which I think is often forgotten about, and you find yourself on the motorway behind a vehicle throwing up muck at you, and you suddenly realise you haven't checked.
Well, yeah, exactly. And depending on the car, the bottles can vary in size. So, you know, not all cars hold that much. So it does need to be checked probably once a month.
Very good.
Okay. Brake fluid. There is a warning device on the brake fluid, so it doesn't really need to be checked. It can be visually checked. There is a maximum and minimum mark on the side. Usually better to use a torch so that you can see the fluid actually in it. It isn't usually something you've got to deal with, purely because
a warning light would come up.
A warning light, if it starts to go down, a warning light would come on. Right. Bonnet safety catch. Yep. You've got 2 catches here. One's the primary catch and one's the secondary catch. The primary catch is the one that when you pull your lever inside the car, the primary catch releases. Yep. But there is an emergency catch which holds onto the bonnet. Right. Most important, they very often can seize in the open position. So if the main catch fails, the bonnet can come up. So while you're here, just make sure that the secondary catch is working and is nicely sprung loaded and closing. Okay, final one, battery. Yeah. What you're looking for is no smell of acid. You're looking for, make sure there's no leaks, no bulging of the battery, and just make sure the connections are sound. Most batteries now are either sealed for life or require very little maintenance. So that side of it, you know, sometimes there is a little spyglass in the top. If you look down the spyglass, normally you would see a green glow showing that the battery condition is acceptable. Right. In this instance, yes, it is. There's a little green glow from in there. So that battery shows that it's got sufficient fluid inside it. So that's about as much as you need to do. You're just checking the condition of things. All you're doing really...
Find out if your battery's in.
Well, yeah, everything about maintenance is catching it before it's a problem. You know, not being left in the middle of nowhere with a flat battery, not being left in the nowhere where you've got no screen wash. It's all about just keeping on top of your vehicle. By doing these basic checks, you can avoid a lot of expensive mistakes. If you come to the vehicle and it constantly needs topping up with water, then you might have a bit of an issue with a water leak somewhere, radiator leaking or something like that. Again, if you keep coming to it and the engine oil's down, it may well be that there's a little bit of a problem starting to develop there. Those are the times when you need to seek advice. That's why we're here. You can ring us or pop in and we'll let you know what we think. You know, does it need to go any further? Is it something I need to check more often? Is this the way my car is aging? Or is it or do we have a problem? These are the things that obviously we can discuss with you and help you.
Okay, thanks very much, Ben.
No problem, anytime.
Appreciate that, and I'm sure people will
We'll see you in the next one.
Cheers.